I need you to listen carefully. Really listen. There's something I've never told anyone, something I've carried quietly for years. Maybe if I say it aloud, it will make sense. Or maybe it will only deepen the confusion. I can't tell which anymore. That morning began like any other. The sun spilled through the curtains, casting gold stripes across the wooden floor. My knitting needles clicked softly in my hands, but I wasn't thinking about the pattern. No, my mind kept returning to the photograph on the mantel. You know the type. Family, smiling, happy, innocent. But do you ever feel that a memory isn't quite right? That even the happiest moments hide shadows? I leaned closer. My granddaughter's smile seemed rehearsed to perfect. My son's eyes, usually warm and honest, seemed to avoid mine even in the frozen image. Do you ever see someone you love and feel a hesitation, a subtle shift that doesn't belong? That's what I felt then. I need to tell someone, I whispered, though the only answer was silence. The house held its breath, or perhaps it was I who was holding mine. My hands moved on their own with the knitting, but my attention was consumed entirely by that photograph. Something in it whispered, "Look closer. Notice what's hidden." I tried to remember the day it was taken, the sun, the smell of coffee, the sound of my daughter laughing, yet the memory blurred and faltered like a candle in the wind. Isn't it strange how memories you trust can suddenly feel foreign? My heart thumped as the shadows across the floor seemed to stretch unnaturally, almost like they were trying to point something out. I don't know if it was fear or awareness, or maybe both, that made me shiver. The old clock ticked louder than usual, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw movement in the corner of my eye. But when I turned, there was nothing. Or maybe there was something I didn't want to see. Have you ever stared at a familiar place and felt it turn alien? The garden outside looked the same as it always had, yet distant. The oak tree where my grandchildren played, the flower beds I tended for years, all of it felt slightly wrong. My reflection in the glass flickered behind the photograph, a shadow that wasn't mine. I held the photograph tighter, feeling the warmth of the paper and the cold weight of unease. My son's hand was resting slightly differently than I remembered. My daughter's head tilted in a way that didn't belong in my memory. My granddaughter's eyes seemed almost cautious. Could I trust my own eyes, or my own memory? I need you to understand, this wasn't dramatic. There were no screams, no sudden terror, just a quiet, gnawing sense that something I loved, something I trusted, was shifting. Do you know that feeling, when you begin to doubt what is real, even in the place that should be safest? And now, even after all these years, I can feel that morning pressing on me. That photograph sits on the mantel, silent, haunting. Sometimes I speak to it, asking questions that will never be answered. And sometimes, just sometimes, I think I see that shadow move, just slightly. I don't know if it's real or imagined, but I do know this. The first sign of a storm isn't thunder or lightning. It is a shift in the familiar, a shadow where none should be. So I'm asking you, watch closely, listen carefully, stay with me as I try to untangle memory from reality. Maybe together, we'll understand, or maybe, by the end, you'll feel the same unease I felt that morning, that terrible, quiet certainty that not everything in your home, or in your life, is as it seems. The house I live in is full of echoes. Every creaking floorboard, every whisper of wind through the windows seems to carry fragments of memory. Some are warm, comforting. Others prick the skin like cold air. I spend my days in routines that should feel familiar. Yet the smallest change, a cup left in the wrong place, a door slightly ajar, the faint smell of something unfamiliar, unsettles me. I think often of my children. My son, once so full of laughter, now moves through the house with careful precision. His eyes avoid mine more often than they meet. My daughter, who always held the family together, smiles with a weight I cannot name. Even my grandchildren, sweet, bright voices that once echoed through these rooms, now speak with pauses, as if measuring each word, each movement. I love them all more than I can ever say, and yet, I feel a distance growing that I cannot explain. I try to tell myself it is simply the passage of time, the way children grow, the way life changes, but deep in my chest, I feel that it is more than that. Something is shifting, something is hidden. I spend mornings by the window, letting the sunlight fall across the wooden floors, watching the shadows stretch and bend. The photographs lining the walls, once pure tokens of happiness, now seem to watch me. I notice subtle changes, a glance in my son's eyes that I do not remember, a tilt of my daughter's head that feels rehearsed, my grandchildren frozen in poses that feel almost false. Each image makes me question my own memory. Am I forgetting, or have I simply overlooked something that was always there? Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear whispers, not words, not exactly, but echoes of laughter, hushed arguments, murmurs of voices I cannot place. I tell myself it is the house, old wood and wind, making noises in the quiet, but my intuition is sharper now, insistent. These whispers carry intent, subtle hints of secrets hidden in plain sight. Then there are the letters, small, ordinary envelopes, yet their contents shake me. They contain names, dates, confessions, things that I should know but do not, things that make me wonder if the life I thought I knew was only a carefully constructed illusion. I begin to doubt my own mind. Is it age, or something darker, something deliberate? Each day, the unease grows. Love and fear coexist, tangled in ways I cannot separate. I watch my children interact, searching for cracks, for moments that reveal the truth, and each time, I catch a fleeting hesitation, a flicker of guilt, a shadow behind a smile. I am afraid to name it, yet I cannot look away. Even the smallest details demand attention. A cup left in an odd place, a photograph slightly crooked, the scent of perfume that does not belong. They all whisper, notice me, understand me, uncover me. I follow the whispers cautiously, feeling my heart race with both anticipation and dread. Sometimes, I sit alone in the dim light of the living room, listening to the creaks of the old floorboards. The house feels alive in a way I have never felt before. Every sound, every shadow, every flutter of light feels intentional. I wonder, am I imagining it all, or has my family always carried secrets I was too blind to see? By the end of the day, I am exhausted, my mind spinning. The warmth of memories I once trusted now carries a chill. The house is no longer simply a home. It is a labyrinth of doubt and suspicion, and I know, with a gnawing certainty, that the life I thought I understood is beginning to unravel. I do not yet know where it will lead, or what I will discover, but I can feel the first threads of revelation weaving through my heart. Something hidden is waiting, something that will force me to confront what I have always feared, that even those we love most may carry shadows behind their smiles. It started with small things, a glance that lingered too long, a smile that felt forced, a silence that seemed deliberate. I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination, or perhaps the mind's trickery with age, but the unease grew, slowly, relentlessly. One afternoon, I found a letter tucked behind an old book in the living room. It was fragile, yellowed, but the handwriting was unmistakable. My son's. I hesitated, fingertips brushing the envelope as though it might bite. The words inside were ordinary at first, mundane even, but then they revealed moments I didn't remember, confessions I had never been told, and fears I had no idea existed. My chest tightened, and a cold shiver ran down my spine. Voices in the house began to feel different. My daughter's laugh sometimes seemed rehearsed, a little too precise. My son spoke in half words, leaving pauses. I could almost hear the secrets in even my grandchildren's cheerful chatter now carried a cautious undertone, like they were measuring what they said, waiting for my reaction. I began to question myself. Was it my mind betraying me, playing tricks as I grew older? Or was someone I trusted, deliberately manipulating the world around me, bending reality just enough to make me doubt everything? The fear was subtle at first, like a whisper, but whispers can grow into storms. Every object in the house seemed to carry a message. A cup left slightly askew, a photograph tilted just enough to feel deliberate, the faint scent of perfume I didn't recognize, shadows that stretched across the walls in impossible ways. Each anomaly was small, almost ignoble, but together, they formed a pattern I could no longer dismiss. I tried to hold on to love, tried to remind myself of the warmth that had always filled these rooms, and yet the more I looked, the more the ordinary world seemed to twist. People I loved, people I had trusted for decades, now seemed like strangers in familiar clothes. Some nights, I would lie awake, listening to the house breathe. The floorboards creaked, the wind whispered through cracks in the windows, and I felt a presence, though I could never name it. My heart would race, my thoughts spun in endless circles, trying to reconcile what I remembered with what I saw. Then there were the photographs. More and more of them seemed wrong. My son in places I could not remember, my daughter in situations I had never witnessed, my grandchildren frozen in moments that contradicted the stories I had carried in my mind. Each picture was a silent accusation. You have not been paying attention. You have missed the truth. Guilt and fear wrapped themselves around me like chains. Perhaps I had failed them as a mother. Perhaps I had ignored signs, overlooked clues that would have revealed their secrets. Yet my instincts whispered another possibility, that the truth was being hidden from me deliberately, that someone close had woven a shadow world parallel to the one I thought I knew. By evening, I was drained. The house felt alive with secrets, whispering and shifting, and I could no longer pretend everything was ordinary. Something had changed. Something had always been hidden, and now the unraveling had begun. I did not yet know what I would find, or whether I was ready to face it, but I understood this. The life I had trusted, the love, the laughter, the security, was no longer solid beneath my feet. Something dark, something intimate, something terrifyingly close had taken root, and I braced myself, as one braves a storm that has already begun, for the day when the truth would finally come to light. The house had grown quieter over the past days. Even the wind seemed hesitant to stir the curtains. Every corner of the room, every shadow, felt charged with anticipation, or perhaps it was my own fear magnifying the ordinary. I knew, deep down, that something I had loved and trusted for decades was not what it seemed. I was drawn, almost irresistibly, to the photograph I had noticed weeks ago. I held it again, fingertips trembling, tracing the edges as if the paper could whisper its secrets, and then I saw it, the detail I had overlooked, a figure in the background, blurred, almost imperceptible, yet unmistakably present. Someone I thought I knew, standing in a way that did not belong. I remembered the small hesitations, the silences, the fleeting expressions of guilt on my family's faces. My memories, once warm and comforting, began to unravel. Every laugh, every smile, every touch I had trusted was now tinged with doubt. The truth was hiding in plain sight, and I had been blind to it for far too long. I searched the house, room by room, following invisible threads of unease. Letters I had found earlier were pieces of a puzzle I feared to complete. Names, dates, confessions, each one contradicted my memories. My mind raced, teetering on the edge of disbelief. Was I losing myself, or had deception lived quietly among us all these years? Then I found the chest in the attic, an old wooden trunk, dust-covered, long forgotten. Inside were photographs, letters, small objects I had never seen before, relics of moments deliberately hidden from me. I pulled each item out carefully, reading every word, examining every image. They revealed choices made behind my back, secrets kept with calculated care, betrayals that had been quietly buried. The weight of it all pressed down on me. The love I had taken for granted now seemed layered with deception. The people I trusted most had hidden entire lives from me. And yet, even as shock and sorrow threatened to overwhelm me, I felt a strange clarity. I could see the truth, and though it hurt, it freed me. I confronted them quietly, my voice low and trembling. Questions I had held in my heart for weeks spilled out in fragments. Their eyes met mine, some fearful, some ashamed, some hesitant. There were no raised voices, no shouting, no dramatics. The betrayal revealed itself quietly, intimately, and utterly devastatingly. It was then that I understood. Horror is not always sudden or violent. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the recognition that the ones we love most can carry shadows behind their smiles, that the world we built with trust, memories, and love can hold secrets we cannot imagine. Even as my world collapsed in that intimate moment, I felt a thread of resilience stir within me. I had seen the truth. I had confronted the storm, and though it had shattered illusions, it had also illuminated a fragile path forward. Love could still exist, but it would now be tempered with awareness and caution. The attic grew dim as the sun sank, shadows stretching across the floor like fingers of memory reaching out. I sat among the letters, photographs, and objects of hidden lives, my chest heavy with grief, yet strangely buoyed by understanding. The revelations had broken something, yes, but they had also opened my eyes to reality, raw, painful, and undeniable. I realized then that life's deepest wounds are rarely healed by anger or revenge. They are healed through acknowledgement, acceptance, and courage. The courage to face what has been hidden, to embrace what cannot be changed. And though my heart ached, it also carried the faintest seed of hope, a quiet promise that even after betrayal and darkness, one can choose to continue, to rebuild, to love differently, yet still deeply. I stayed there long after the sun had disappeared, surrounded by silence, shadows, and memories, and I understood, with a clarity that pierced through the sorrow, The truth may hurt, but it also awakens us. And perhaps, in awakening, we find the strength to carry on. After the truth was laid bare, the house became quieter than ever. Even the familiar sounds, the creak of the floorboards, the whisper of wind through the curtains, felt hollow. I wandered from room to room, touching objects that once held comfort and now carried weight. Every photograph, every trinket, every letter was a reminder of the betrayal I had uncovered, yet also of the life I had loved. I tried to speak to them afterward, to ask questions I still couldn't fully form, but the words felt fragile, like glass in my mouth. My family moved around me with careful politeness, avoiding the unspoken tension. Love lingered in the corners, yes, but it had changed shape, delicate, cautious, and uncertain. Sometimes I sit by the window and watch the garden, the sunlight filtering through the oak tree where my grandchildren once played. I see them now, moving like shadows of the past, smiles that carry a mixture of innocence and secrecy. I wonder if they remember the moments differently, or if, like me, they feel the weight of what cannot be spoken. The attic, that room of revelations, calls to me still. I return to it often, not to seek answers, but to confront the echoes of memory and truth. Each photograph, each letter, carries its own story, a fragment of lives intertwined with mine, lives I had thought I understood but now see were layered with hidden depths. Grief and relief coexist in strange ways. I mourn what I thought I knew, the illusions of perfect love and unbroken trust. Yet, I also feel a cautious clarity, a sense that knowing the truth, no matter how painful, allows me to navigate life more deliberately. The fear has not vanished, but it has become something I can carry, something that sharpens my perception instead of paralyzing me. I ask myself often, did it happen as I remember? Were the shadows in the photograph real, or a trick of my own mind? Did the letters truly reveal betrayal, or was my interpretation colored by suspicion and fear? I do not have the answers. Perhaps the nature of truth is not absolute, especially in a house filled with memory, love, and human imperfection. And yet, even in uncertainty, there is a strange peace. I have confronted the hidden. I have seen the shadows. I have acknowledged the unspoken. The house, once merely familiar, has become a repository of lessons, a witness to resilience. I move through it now with cautious steps, aware of what lies beneath the surface, yet willing to continue living among its walls. Some nights I dream of the photograph. The faces stare back at me, smiling, yet the shadow remains. It is no longer frightening, only a reminder that life carries hidden depths, that people carry secrets, and that memory can deceive even the most careful heart. The dreams leave me unsettled, but they also leave me awake with clarity. To love is to risk betrayal, to remember is to risk doubt, and to live is to navigate both. I do not know if I will ever fully understand all that occurred, or if I ever will. Perhaps that is the point. Life is stitched together with fragments of memory and truth, with shadows and light intertwined. I forgive where I can, I mourn what I must, and I continue. And now, I speak to you, the one who listens. Perhaps you will never know all that happened. Perhaps you will. Perhaps the story is yours to interpret, to carry forward. I only ask that you listen, truly listen, and feel the quiet weight of what it means to love, to doubt, and to survive. The house is still. The photograph remains on the mantel, and sometimes, when I pass it, I swear the shadow shifts just slightly. I do not fear it anymore. I simply watch, and remember, and move forward. And in that act, fragile and trembling as it may be, I find the faintest spark of hope, because even after betrayal, after doubt, after grief, life, messy, imperfect, and haunted, continues.